Webcasting from north central Wisconsin, I'm Jonathan Switzer, and this is the Roboblog Chronicles for the third week of March 2009. It's a balmy 54 degrees out here. It's warmer than it's been any other time this year up here in Wausau. So, I'm doing this outdoors again. And consequently, I don't have any notes from any of the comments threads. I was going to cover some of that today, but I basically got called out to work on my day off, grabbed my stuff, ran out to work, and I'm doing this out here after work, save myself some time and trouble. Anyway, this week's topic, as suggested by viewer Ryan Prinky, is the 3 Lost Generation novels by Jack McKinney. Actually by James Luceno, the surviving member of the McKinney writing team. They were published from 1994 to 96, one a year, coming out every March. And these 3 novels, for those unfamiliar with the work, seek to fill in gaps in the Robotech timeline as established by the previous 18 novels, the 12 adaptation novels, the 5 Sentinels novels, and the capper, The End of the Circle. The first novel, The Zentradi Rebellion, takes place between the Macross Saga and the beginning of the novel's version of the Sentinels. The second, The Master's Gambit, should probably be read after the Sentinels and right before the Robotech Masters. And the third, Before the Imminent Storm, takes place between the Robotech Masters and the New Generation, covering the events immediately following the end of the Second Robotech War and leading up to the arrival of the Invasion in Earth space. The Zentradi Rebellion is the longest of the 3. It is an epic monster of a book, clocking in at about 500 pages. I think it might be longer even than The End of the Circle. It breaks everything down by year, beginning in, I think, 2015 by the novel's timeline, and concluding, I think it starts it ends with the beginning of 2020. I think that's when the last chapter takes place. I can't remember offhand. I'm working completely from memory here. I've read the book probably about 5 times, so it's a safe thing. It's based largely on events laid down by Bill Spangler in the comic book series The Malcontent Uprisings back at either the end of the 80s or the early 90s. I think it was 89, 90. It could be 90, 91. I forget that offhand as well. But it was the first miniseries, or maxi-series, since it's 12 issues, that Eternity published while they were doing the Sentinels. The Zentradi Rebellion is my favorite, and I think it is the best of the 3 novels. It's the last time that the Macross characters are the Macross characters rather than the Sentinels characters. It's the last time you'll see in Robotech proper VF-1 Valkyries flying around fighting Zentradi. It still sort of feels like Macross, even with the characters, with the level of, let's say, maturity involved in the book. There's a lot of allusions to sex, graphic violence, that sort of stuff. It does sort of color my opinion of the work to a very small degree, but I still just like seeing those characters back in action, doing their thing outside of the Sentinels context. The years have not been kind to the Sentinels novels. They're a little cartoonish, and I actually think it's better when it's handled visually like it is in the Waltrip's comics. On the printed page, the monocultural planets that could be won back by just taking a single capital, it just rings false to me. Whereas you go and you look at something like the Centralia Rebellion, and it's taking place all over planet Earth. You've got terrorist actions, in this part of the world, affecting, the way the RDF handles the Zentradi problem, the malcontent problem. I just really love the scope. I really love seeing Sterling getting some really major time to shine. I like seeing how Miria is actually portrayed as the character that everyone always thinks she is. You look at her in the animated series, and sure, she's a badass warrior when you first meet her, but once she loses to Max, she just becomes almost a cipher. In the Centralia Rebellion, she gets to be a warrior again. She gets to be the badass again. And seeing Rick adjusting to being put in command, those are some of the best scenes in the book, in my opinion. My only quibble with the book is its treatment of Anatole Leonard, who is painted up as a boogeyman conservative, overly devout Christian, total xenophobe, and secret kinky bondage freak. It's really unfair to the character, but it is symptomatic of the treatment he got at the hands of Spangler, at the hands of McKinney, at the hands of even Masek from the get-go. Remember, the first line in his profile in Robotech Art 1 is, Supreme Commander Leonard is a pathetic bigot. I mean, once you got that out there, right from the horse's mouth, it becomes really hard to treat him as a sympathetic character again. That just accumulated, reaching a crescendo in the Zentradi Rebellion. The second of the novels, The Master's Gambit, it's a William Gibson wannabe novel. It's mostly just sort of a cyberpunk hacker story, set in the Robotech universe. I like the setting. I really like, the Tokyo setting. I really like all the cultural stuff going on. I love the Laszlo Zan subplot, how it, streams from the Zentradi Rebellion into the Master's Gambit, into the Robotech Masters novels. But that's really, as a Robotech fan, the only thing to recommend it. It sets up a lot of characters who show up later in The End of the Circle, Louis Nichols' circle of hacker friends, but, I didn't like them there either. The Master Gambit is just a weird book. It's, it tries to do exactly what Bill Spangler kept trying to do throughout his tenure during the Robotech comics, which I don't really think works with Robotech. I think really it needed more action. And I think that's about all the time we actually have today. So I might talk about the Before the Infinite Storm next time, but I really want to, since my credit card's been charged for it, I think I'll be having my copy of the new Robotech Masters RPG to talk about next week, so I might hold off on Before the Infinite Storm for another time so I can devote the full 10 minutes to talking about the new Palladium Books Robotech Masters source book, because I really want to sink into that thing. So on that note, this is Captain JLS, signing off.